Nothing changes in your life until you decide what actually matters. Think about how most days begin. You wake up, and before you even fully feel awake, your mind is already busy. Messages, tasks, problems, noise. By the time the day ends, you feel tired. Not because you moved forward, but because you reacted to everything around you. That experience is common. It is also the reason many people feel stuck, even though they try hard. This video is about breaking that pattern. The power of intention and clarity is about learning how to take your mind back before the day takes you. It is about deciding how you want to think, act, and respond instead of running on habits you never chose. When intention is clear, your mind feels calmer. When clarity is present, decisions stop feeling heavy. You no longer waste energy guessing what to do next. If you feel distracted, overwhelmed, or mentally drained, this is not because you lack discipline. It is because your focus is scattered. Focus can be rebuilt. Direction can be restored. Stay with this. What you are about to hear will help you slow down your thinking. Clear your priorities and start living with purpose instead of pressure. When intention leads and clarity supports, your days begin to feel steady, and your progress becomes real. Number 1. Set a clear aim before starting each day. When I stand in front of people and talk about change, I am not talking to ideas or theories. I am talking to human beings with worries, hopes, doubts, and responsibility sitting on their shoulders. And the first place real change begins is not effort or talent or even opportunity. It begins with intention, and that intention must be clear before the day ever gets away from you. Most people wake up and immediately react to whatever noise comes at them. Messages, problems, moods from yesterday, unfinished business from last week. And by noon, they feel tired. Not because they worked hard, but because they drifted all morning without direction. The human mind does not like confusion. Confusion creates stress, and stress drains energy. Clarity does the opposite. Clarity gives strength. Clarity brings calm. Clarity allows you to move forward with less effort and better results. Setting a clear aim before starting each day is not a motivational trick. It is a psychological necessity. The mind needs a target. When there is no target, the mind wanders. And when it wanders, it usually drifts toward fear, comfort, or distraction. That is human nature. Nobody escapes it. Discipline begins with deciding in advance what matters today. Not everything, just what matters. Every day has limits. Limited hours, limited energy, limited attention. You cannot afford to spend those limits randomly. People say they want more time, but time is not the issue, direction is. If you do not decide how the day should be used, someone else will decide for you. That might be a job, a phone, a problem, or a bad habit. None of those care about your future. A clear aim is simple language spoken to your own mind. It is saying today, this is what deserves my focus. Today, this is what I will not ignore. Today, this is what I will finish. It does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be honest. Honesty is what gives intention its power. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a day. When the day is handled with purpose, one clear aim handled daily beats 10 vague goals written once and forgotten. The brain works best with simplicity. Too many goals create resistance. One clear aim creates momentum. When you wake up without intention, you feel rushed, even as nothing urgent is happening. When you wake up with intention, your pace slows and your confidence rises. You walk differently. You speak different. Your choices improve because your mind has a reference point. Human behavior follows inner direction, not outer pressure. People often wait for motivation to show up before deciding what they want from the day. Motivation does not come first. Decision comes first. Motivation follows clarity. When the mind knows where it is going, energy shows up to support it. Waiting for motivation is another form of delay that feels reasonable, but produces nothing. Setting a clear aim also protects you emotionally. Without intention, emotions take over. A bad mood can hijack an entire day. A small problem can feel bigger than it is. When you have a clear aim, emotions lose some of their control. You still feel them, but they do not steer the wheel. The aim for the day should stretch you, but not crush you. It should demand attention, but not panic. Humans shut down when overwhelmed and disengage when bored. The read aim keeps you alert and engaged. It gives the day a shape. Days without shape blur together, and weeks disappear without progress. Clarity also builds self-respect. Each time you set an aim and honor it, you send a message to yourself that your word matters. Confidence grows from kept promises, not from loud thinking. Small wins handled daily build an inner strength that no speech can replace. People often confuse busyness with purpose. They fill their day with tasks, but never ask what those tasks are leading toward. A clear aim filters tasks. It helps you say yes with intention and no without guilt. Saying no is not rejection. It is protection of direction. When intention is missing, distractions become tempting. Not because distractions are powerful, but because the mind is bored. Boredom looks for relief. Relief often looks like scrolling, eating, delaying, or complaining. Clarity removes roadblock because the mind has work that matters. A clear aim does not mean the day will go perfectly. Problems will still show up. Interruptions will still happen. The difference is how you respond. With intention, you adjust instead of collapse. You redirect instead of quit. You finish where it still can be finished. Psychologically, the mind looks for completion. When you end the day knowing you honored your aim, sleep comes easier. Regret keeps people awake. Clarity allows rest. Tomorrow feels lighter because today was handled with care. Many people think intention must be emotional or inspiring to work. It does not. Intention must be precise. Emotion fades. Precision remains. A calm decision outlasts a strong feeling. Ask yourself this simple question. Every morning before the world gets loud, what would make today count? Not what would make it perfect. Not what would impress others. What would make it count? That answer is your aim. Write it. Speak it. Keep it visible. The human brain respects written direction. Thoughts are slippery. Written intention holds ground. When doubt shows up, you do not debate it. You point back to the aim. This is what matters today. That sentence carries weight. Clarity also ulls anxiety. Anxiety often offends from too many undefined expectations. When you know what success looks like for the day, pressure drops. You are no longer chasing everything. You are building something specific. People say life is unpredictable. And that is true, but direction is still a choice. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control the aim you bring into the day. That aim becomes your anchor. When things shift, discipline is not harsh. Discipline is supportive. It is a structure that allows freedom. A clear aim creates that structure. Without structure, freedom moves into chaos. If you want to improve your life, stop trying to fix everything at once. Start by owning the morning. Own the first decision of the day. That decision sets the tone. That tone shapes behavior. Behavior shapes result. Each day handled with intention builds a future that feels earned, not accidental. Success is rarely dramatic. It is quiet, consistent, and directed. Clarity makes that possible. The power of intention and clarity is not mystical. It is practical. It works because it aligns how the mind naturally functions with how you choose to live. When intention is clear, effort becomes focused. When effort is focused, progress becomes visible. Do not underestimate the impact of one well-directed day. Often, lives change that way. Careers change that way. Confidence changes that way. Decide before the day decides for you. Set a clear aim before starting each day. That simple habit will quietly reshape how you think, act, and live. Number 2, question automatic choices that shape your life. People do not usually ruin their lives with one big decision. What shapes a life is a long line of small choices made without thinking. Those choices feel harmless because they are familiar. Familiar feels safe even when it is holding you back. Human beings repeat what they know until they question it. That is why questioning automatic choices is one of the most powerful acts of personal growth. An automatic choice is any decision you make without awareness. How you start your morning, what you eat when you feel stressed, how you respond when someone challenges you, how you spend the quiet hours. These are not dramatic moments, but they quietly write the story of your future. The mind loves shortcuts. It saves energy by repeating patterns. That helps you survive, but it does not help you grow. Most people live on mental autopilot for years. They react instead of choose. They follow habits they never examined. They adopt opinions they never tested. They accept limits they never agreed to consciously. Then one day they wonder why life feels small, or frustrating, or unfulfilled. The answer is not hidden. It is built into daily behavior. Questioning automatic choices does not mean judging yourself. It means becoming aware. Awareness is not criticism. Awareness is power. The moment you notice a pattern, you create space between stimulus and response. That space is where freedom lives. Think about how many times a day you say yes out of habit. Yes to requests you do not have time for. Yes to distractions that pull you off track. Yes to comfort when discomfort would lead to growth. These yeses are rarely chosen. They happen because the brain prefers ease. Ease is not evil, but it should not be in charge. The same is true with no. People say no to opportunities because of fear, not logic. No to learning because it feels inconvenient. No to change because it feels unfamiliar. Those no's often go unquestioned for years. They become identity. I am not that kind of person. I do not do those things. That sentence often started as an automatic reaction and turned into a life rule. Human psychology favors consistency over truth. The mind would rather stay consistent with past behavior than admit a better option exists. That is why change feels uncomfortable. Not because it is wrong, but because it challenges the familiar self-image. Automatic choices also show up in emotional responses. The way you react when criticized. The way you shut down when things get difficult. The way you get defensive instead of curious. These reactions feel personal, but they are often learned responses repeated over time. Nobody taught you to question them, so they stayed. When you question an automatic reaction, you are not suppressing emotion. You are examining it. Why did I react that way? What belief triggered that response? Is that belief helping or limiting me? This process turns emotion into information instead of control. Questioning habits requires honesty without drama. You do not need to shame yourself for past behavior. You simply need to ask better questions. Why do I do this? Where did this pattern come from? What result does it to? Would I choose it again if I were starting fresh today? The mind resists these questions because they threaten comfort. Comfort is not growth. Growth requires friction. That friction is mental before it is physical. You feel it when you pause instead of reacting. You feel it when you sit with uncertainty instead of escaping it. Many people confuse personality with habit. They say this is just how I am. In reality, it is how they have practiced being. Behavior repeated long enough feels like identity. Identity can change when behavior changes. Automatic choices also affect how you see yourself. If you constantly choose delay, you begin to see yourself as unreliable. If you choose avoidance, you begin to see yourself as weak. If you choose discipline, you begin to see yourself as capable. Self-image is not formed by affirmations. It is formed by evidence. Choices provide that evidence. Questioning your choices gives you the chance to upgrade your standards. Standards determine what you tolerate. What you tolerate becomes your lifestyle. If you tolerate distraction, your focus weakens. If you tolerate poor boundaries, your energy drains. If you tolerate excuses, your progress slows. The goal is not perfection. The goal is conscious living. Conscious living means fewer regrets, because choices are intentional, even when results are not ideal. You know you acted with awareness. This process begins with slowing down. Speed hides patterns. Slowness reveals them. When you slow your thinking, you notice impulses before they become actions. That pause is a skill. It grows with practice. Ask yourself during the day simple question. Is this choice aligned with who I want to become? Am I choosing this or repeating it? Will this move me forward or keep me comfortable? These questions shift control back to you. Automatic choices thrive in emotional states like stress, fatigue, and boredom. When energy is low, habits take over. That is why self-care matters. Not as indulgence, but as maintenance. A rested mind makes better decisions. Questioning does not mean overthinking. It means selective thinking. You do not question every action. You question the ones that shape direction, the ones repeated daily, the ones that affect health, relationships, work, and self-respect. When you change one habitual response, you change the course of your day. When you change the course of enough days, you change your life. This is not theory. It is how behavior works. People often wait for a crisis to question their patterns. That is unnecessary pain. Growth can be proactive. You can examine choices while life is stable. That is wisdom. Asking questions of yourself builds maturity. Children act on impulse. Adults reflect before acting. Reflection is not weakness. It is leadership over the self. The power of intention and clarity shows up here. Intention gives you a direction. Clarity helps you see which choices support it and which do not. Without clarity, habits run the show. With clarity, habits can be redesigned. Each time you question an automatic choice, you reclaim a piece of your future. That future is built daily, not someday. Awareness today shapes tomorrow. Start small, notice one pattern, just one. Do not try to fix everything. Observation comes before change. Once you see a pattern clearly, it loses some of its grip. Light weakens repetition. Human beings are not stuck, they are practiced. What has been practiced can be changed. Questioning is the first step. Action follows awareness. The quality of your life is not determined by luck or talent alone. It is determined by the choices you repeat when nobody is watching. Question those choices, and you begin to shape your life with intention instead of habit. Number 3, slow down thinking to regain mental control. People often believe their problem is lack of time, or lack of discipline, or lack of motivation. In many cases, the real problem is speed. Not speed of action, but speed of thought. A fast mind feels productive, but it is often uncontrolled. When thinking runs too fast, judgment weakens and emotions take over. Regaining mental control begins by slowing the pace of thought. The human mind was not designed to process endless input without rest. When thoughts stack up without order, the result is tension. That tension shows up as impatience, short reactions, poor decisions, and constant mental noise. Many people live inside that noise and mistake it for normal. It is common, but it is not healthy. Fast thinking is often praised. People say quick thinkers succeed. What they forget is that quality thinking is rarely rushed. Important decisions require space. Clear direction requires calm. When the mind slows down, it starts to notice what it usually skips. That awareness changes everything. Most mistakes are not made because people lack intelligence. They are made because people respond too quickly. They answer before understanding. They react before reflecting. They commit before considering consequences. Speed feels efficient, but it often creates repair work later. Slowing down thinking does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming deliberate. Deliberate thinking gives you authority over your behavior. Instead of being pulled by every feeling, you choose how to respond. That choice is power. When thoughts race, emotions rise. When emotions rise, logic fades. That is how people say things they regret and make promises they cannot keep. A slower mind allows emotions to settle. Settled emotions lead to better choices. Mental control is not force. It is about rhythm. Just as the body needs pauses, the mind needs gaps. Those gaps allow thoughts to organize. Without them, thinking becomes scattered. Many people fill every quiet moment with stimulation. Phones, music, constant conversation. Silence feels uncomfortable because it exposes the mental noise already there. Avoiding silence keeps the noise alive. Facing silence begins to reduce it. When you slow down thinking, you start to hear your own reasoning. You notice what matters and what does not. You become less reactive to opinions and more grounded in judgment. That grounding builds confidence. Stress often comes from mental overload, not actual danger. The body reacts as if something is wrong because the mind is running unchecked. Slowing thoughts signals safety. The nervous system responds. Breathing deepens. Muscles relax. Clarity improves. You do not need complex techniques to slow thinking. You need intention. Intention to pause before responding. Intention to take a breath before deciding. Intention to finish one thought before starting another. Multitasking is praised, but it fractures attention. Fragmented attention weakens thinking. One thought handled fully is more effective than 5 thoughts handled halfway. When the mind slows you in perspective, problems shrink to their actual size. Priorities become clearer. Urgency loses its grip. You realize that not everything deserves immediate action. People often confuse urgency with importance. Urgency demands speed. Importance demands care. Slowing thinking helps you tell the difference. That distinction saves time, energy, and regret. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your life. Thinking shapes choices. Choices shape habits. Habits shape outcomes. If thinking is rushed, the entire chain suffers. Slowing down also improves listening. When your mind is racing, you hear words but miss meaning. True listening requires presence. Presence requires a calm inner state. Relationships improve when attention is steady. Many conflicts escalate because neither side pauses. Words are exchanged faster than understanding. A slower response can prevent unnecessary damage. Silence used wisely is not weakness, it is control. Slowing the mind also improves learning. Information sticks when the brain has time to process it. Rushed learning feels busy but produces little retention. Reflection deepens understanding. People often say they cannot stop thinking. That is not true. They can slow it. Slowing is achievable. It begins with noticing. Notice the pace. Notice the tension. Awareness alone starts the change. Mental control grows with practice. Each pause strengthens it. Each moment of restraint builds capacity. Over time, calm becomes familiar. Familiar calm replaces constant rush. Slowing thinking also allows intention to guide action. Intention cannot lead when thoughts are scattered. Direction requires focus. Focus requires rain. When you slow your mind, you start to act from values instead of impulse. Values are quiet. Impulses are loud. Slowing down allows values to be heard. This practice also improves decision-making. Under pressure, pressure does not disappear. Your response changes. Instead of panic, you engage judgment. Instead of haste, you choose wisely. People often regret fast decisions more than slow ones. Fast decisions feel exciting. Slow decisions feel solid. Solid decisions last. Mental control is not about controlling thoughts one by one. It is about controlling the environment in which thoughts operate. Reduce unnecessary input. Create moments of quiet. Protect mental space. The mind reflects what it consumes. Constant noise produces constant motion. Intentional quiet produces clarity. You choose what enters your mental space. Slowing thinking also builds patience. Patience is not waiting. It is the ability to remain steady without agitation. That steadiness improves endurance. Many people chase productivity tools when what they need is mental discipline. Discipline of pace. Discipline of attention. Discipline of pause. When thinking slows, self-talk improves. Harsh internal voices soften. Reason replaces criticism. You speak to yourself with fairness instead of urgency. This change affects confidence. Confidence grows when decisions feel considered. You trust yourself more because you know you are not acting blindly. Slowing down thinking does not reduce ambition. It refines it. Clear ambition moves steadily. Unclear ambition rushes and burns out. Mental control allows you to respond to life instead of being pushed by it. That shift changes how we experience each day. Days feel less chaotic. Even busy days feel manageable. This practice begins in small moments. Waiting in line, listening to feedback, facing a problem. Each moment offers a chance to slow down internally. Over time, the habit forms. Calm becomes default. Decisions improve. Stress decreases. Focus sharpens. The power of intention and clarity depends on mental control. Without control, intention fades. With control, intention guides. Slow your thinking and you regain authority over your inner world. That authority shapes your outer world. Calm thinking creates clear living. Number 4, choose actions that match your inner values. A person can stay busy all day and still feel empty at night. That feeling usually has nothing to do with effort and everything to do with alignment. When actions do not match inner values, the mind feels divided. Division drains energy. Alignment restores it. Choosing actions that match your inner values is not about morality or rules. It is about psychological balance and long-term strength. Every human being has values, whether they name them or not. Values are what feel right when nobody is watching. They show up in moments of choice. They influence pride, regret, peace, and restlessness. When actions move against values, the body reacts before the mind explains. You feel tension. You feel resistance. You feel tired in a way sleep does not fix. Many people ignore these signals because they seem impractical. They choose what is easy or expected or rewarded in the short term. Over time, that distance from values creates frustration. People say they feel lost, when in truth they are just disconnected from what they believe matters. Inner values are quiet. They do not shout for attention. External pressure is loud. Deadlines, opinions, money, approval, fear. These forces push constantly. Without clarity, values get buried under noise. Choosing aligned action requires awareness and courage. Courage here does not mean dramatic change. It means honest choice. It means asking before acting. Does this reflect who I want to be? Does this decision support the kind of life I respect? These questions slow impulsive behavior and strengthen integrity. Integrity is not perfection. Integrity is consistency between belief and behavior. When that consistency grows, confidence grows. You trust yourself more because your actions confirm your identity. Many people struggle with motivation because they act against their values without realizing it. Motivation fades when actions feel meaningless. Meaning comes from alignment. Even hard work feels lighter when it serves something you care about. Choosing aligned actions also reduces inner conflict. Inner conflict wastes energy. One part of you pushes forward while another pulls back. That tug creates exhaustion. Alignment ends the tug. Energy flows in one direction. Values guide priorities. Without them, priorities change based on mood or pressure. With them, decisions become simpler. Not easier, but clearer. Clarity reduces stress. People often copy goals without checking values. They chase success defined by others. When they reach it, satisfaction is missing. Achievement without alignment feels hollow. Fulfillment comes from living in agreement with yourself. Values also shape boundaries. When values are clear, saying no becomes easier. You are not rejecting people. You are protecting direction. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. Choosing aligned actions strengthens resilience. When challenges appear, you remember why you are doing what you are doing. Purpose steadies effort. Effort without purpose collapses under pressure. This alignment also improves relationships. When you act from values, communication becomes honest. You stop performing and start relating. Trust grows when behavior is predictable and grounded. Many people feel guilty for wanting certain things because they never examined their values consciously. Guilt fades when values are owned. Ownership brings confidence. Values evolve. What mattered 10 years ago may not matter now. That is normal. Periodic reflection keeps alignment current. Old values carried too long create frustration. Choosing aligned action requires slowing down. Fast decisions follow habit. Slower decisions follow belief. Belief-based decisions last. You do not need to justify your values others. Approval is not required for alignment. Peace comes from self-respect, not consensus. When actions match values, discipline feels natural. You do not need constant motivation. Commitment replaces excitement. Commitment endures. Misalignment shows up physically. Tightness, fatigue, irritation. Alignment brings ease even during effort. The body knows when behavior is honest. Many people distract themselves to toto noticing misalignment. Busyness becomes a shield. Quiet reveals truth. Truth invites change. Choosing aligned action sometimes costs comfort. Short-term discomfort protects long-term peace. Peace is worth the cost. This practice builds character. Character is not image. It is behavior repeated under pressure. Values guide behavior when circumstances test you. You cannot control outcomes fully. You can control alignment. Aligned effort leaves less regret regardless of result. When you live aligned, days feel meaningful, even when ordinary. Meaning does not require drama. It requires direction. Values also shape self-talk. When aligned self-talk is supportive, when misaligned self-talk becomes critical, listen to that voice. It signals direction. Choosing aligned action daily builds a life that feels coherent. Coherence brings calm. Calm strengthens focus. This practice is not about judging past choices. It is about choosing the next one consciously. Growth begins now, not then. Ask yourself regularly, what matters to me right now? Let the answer guide behavior. Behavior builds life. The power of intention and clarity becomes real when values guide action. Intention without values is fragile. Values anchor intention. When you act in agreements, your self-effort feels honest. That honesty builds pride. Pride builds confidence. Choose actions that reflect who you are becoming, not who you fear disappointing. Fear fades. Alignment remains. Living aligned does not guarantee ease. It guarantees meaning. Meaning sustains effort when ease disappears. Each aligned choice strengthens the next. Momentum builds quietly. Life begins to feel intentional instead of accidental. This is not about changing everything. It is about choosing correctly more often. Correct choices compound. Values give direction. Action gives expression. Alignment gives fulfillment. Choose actions that match your inner values and the noise fades. Clarity grows. Confidence strengthens. Life begins to feel like it belongs to you. Number 5. Remove unclear goals that drain motivation. Motivation does not disappear for no reason. It drains away when the mind is chasing something it cannot clearly see. One of the quiet killers of progress is an unclear goal. It sounds harmless, but it slowly wears people down. They wake up feeling pressure without purpose, and effort without direction. That tension creates fatigue even before the day begins. An unclear goal keeps the mind busy, but not productive. You think about it often, but cannot act on it with confidence. You feel like you should be doing something, but you do not know exactly what. That feeling creates guilt. Guilt weakens motivation. Over time, people stop trying not because they are lazy, but because their goals never gave them a clear place to stand. Human psychology needs definition. The mind wants to know what success looks like. When success is vague, effort feels endless. Endless effort without visible progress leads to discouragement. Discouragement slowly turns into avoidance. Many people set goals that sound good but mean nothing in daily life. Be successful. Be better. Improve my life. These statements feel positive, but they offer no instruction. The mind does not know what to do with them. When the mind does not know what to do, it delays. Unclear goals also compete with each other. You try to move in many directions at once. Each direction pulls energy. Energy spread too thin loses strength. Progress requires focus. Focus requires clarity. Motivation thrives on progress. Progress requires measurable movement. Movement requires a defined target. When the target is blurry, every step feels uncertain. Uncertainty creates hesitation. Hesitation slows momentum. People often believe motivation should come first and clarity later. In reality, clarity comes first. Motivation follows understanding. When you know exactly what you are aiming for, energy rises naturally. An unclear goal creates constant mental friction. You think about it but never feel finished. That unfinished feeling sits in the background all day. It drains attention. Attention is a limited resource. When it is wasted on confusion, there is less available for action. Removing unclear goals does not mean lowering ambition. It means refining it. Strong ambition without clarity is chaotic. Clear ambition becomes strategic. Many people hold on to unclear goals because they fear commitment. A vague goal allows escape. You can always say you are working on it. A clear goal demands action. Action demands accountability. Accountability feels uncomfortable, but it is necessary for growth. Unclear goals also damage self-trust. You promise yourself improvement, but never define what improvement means. Each day ends without resolution. Over time, you stop believing your own intention. That loss of trust affects confidence. The mind respects precision. When a goal is specific, the brain starts searching for solutions. When it is vague, the brain stays passive. Precision activates problem solving. Another danger of unclear goals is comparison. When your goal lacks definition, you measure yourself against others. Comparison replaces direction. Direction disappears when you chase other people's progress. Clear goals reduce emotional noise. You stop wondering if you are doing enough. You know what enough looks like for the day. That knowledge brings relief. Removing unclear goals also frees energy. Mental energy spent worrying can be redirected into execution. Execution builds momentum. Momentum restores motivation. People often say they feel overwhelmed by their goal. Overwhelm usually means too many undefined expectations. Removing what is unclear simplifies the mental load. Simplicity increases effectiveness. Clarity also improves decision-making. When a goal is set, choices become easier. You know what supports the goal and what distracts from it. Decision fatigue drops. Unclear goals invite distraction because there is no real reason to resist it. When purpose is defined, distractions lose appeal. The mind prefers meaningful effort over random stimulation. Letting go of an unclear goal can feel like failure. It is not. It is maturity. Holding on to confusion is not commitment. Releasing confusion is progress. Ask yourself which goals feel heavy instead of energizing. That heaviness often signals lack of clarity. A clear goal challenges you but also excites you. Confusion drains, clarity focuses. Clear goals create feedback. You know when you are on track and when you are not. Feedback improves learning. Learning improves performance. Unclear goals keep people busy planning instead of doing. Planning feels productive, but without clarity, it becomes delay. Action clarifies more than endless thinking. Removing unclear goals creates space. Space allows you to focus on what matters most. Focus deepens results. Many people believe they need more goals. Often they need fewer better ones. Quality beats quantity. Clear goals align with values. Vague goals often oath outside pressure. Pressure fades. Values endure. When you remove unclear goals, you regain control over your time. Time spent chasing confusion becomes available for deliberate effort. This process also reduces stress. Stress often comes from feeling behind without knowing where you are going. Direction lowers anxiety. Clear goals improve consistency. You know what to repeat daily. Repetition builds mastery. Unclear goals lead to starting and stopping. Starting feels exciting. Stopping feels discouraging. Clear goals support sustained effort. Motivation grows when effort feels purposeful. Purpose comes from clarity. You do not need perfect clarity. You need usable clarity. Enough detail to act today. Today is where change happens. Removing unclear goals is an act of self-respect. It says your time and energy matter. It honors your capacity. As goals become clearer, confidence grows. You trust your direction. That trust fuels persistence. The power of intention and clarity shows itself here. Intention gives desire. Clarity gives direction. Direction turns desire into progress. Let go of goals that confuse you. Replace them with goals that guide you. Guidance builds momentum. Motivation is not something you chase. It is something you create through clarity. Clear goals give effort a destination. Effort without destination wanders. Wandering tires the mind. Each clear goal becomes a reference point. Each reference point strengthens focus. Your life reflects what you pursue clearly, not what you chase vaguely. Remove unclear goals that drain motivation and your energy returns. Focus sharpens. Action becomes easier. Progress becomes visible. Clarity simplifies effort. Simplified effort sustains motivation. Choose goals that tell you exactly what to do next. Those goals support growth. This practice transforms intention into movement. Movement builds results. Results reinforce belief. That is how motivation is restored. Number 6, bring order to thoughts through written focus. The mind becomes crowded long before life becomes difficult. Most pressure people feel does not come from what they are doing, but from what they are holding in their head. Unfinished thoughts, unanswered questions, worries, plans, reminders, and emotions all compete for attention at the same time. When everything stays inside the mind, nothing has a place. Disorder grows quietly and drains focus. Written focus is one of the simplest ways to restore order. It works because the mind was never meant to store everything. It was meant to think, not to hold. When thoughts remain trapped inside, they repeat. Repetition creates tension. Tension feels like stress. Many people underestimate how heavy, unorganized thinking can feel. They wake up tired without physical effort. That tiredness comes from mental clutter carried overnight. Writing releases that weight. The moment a thought is placed on paper, it stops circling endlessly. The human brain feels relief when it sees clarity outside itself. Writing turns vague pressure into visible words. Visible words can be handled. Invisible thoughts feel overwhelming because they have no boundaries. Bringing order through writing is not about grammar or structure. It is about honesty and simplicity. The page does not judge. It receives. That alone calms the mind. When thoughts stay internal, they mix facts with feelings. Writing separates them. You see what is real and what is emotional. That separation improves decision-making. Many people try to think their way out of confusion. Thinking more inside the same crowded space rarely works. Writing creates distance. Distance creates perspective. Written focus slows the mind naturally. The hand cannot move as fast as thoughts race. That pace forces clarity. Slower thinking becomes clearer thinking. When you write, you choose what deserves attention. That choice builds control. Control reduces anxiety. The act of writing also gives shape to intention. Intentions kept only in the mind fade. Intentions written gain weight. Weight creates commitment. Writing also reduces mental noise. Noise comes from unfinished loops. Writing closes loops by capturing them. Captured thoughts stop demanding attention. People often avoid writing because they fear what will come out. That fear signals importance. Writing reveals truth. Truth invites change. Written focus also improves memory. You stop relying on mental reminders. The mind relaxes when it trusts that nothing important will be lost. When thoughts are ordered, priorities become visible. What matters stands out. What does not matter fades. That clarity guides action. Writing does not require long session. Even a few minutes creates impact. Consistency matters more than volume. Written focus improves emotional regulation. When emotions are named, they lose intensity. Unnamed emotions grow stronger. Writing names them. Many people confuse journaling with reflection. Reflection requires honesty. Writing names honesty because it slows reaction and encourages accuracy. When you write, you engage a different part of the brain. That engagement balances emotion and logic. Balance restores control. Written focus also strengthens problem solving. Problems written clearly feel smaller. Solutions become visible. When the mind is cluttered, confidence drops. Confidence returns when thoughts are organized. Organization builds certainty. Writing also builds discipline. Discipline of clarity. Clarity supports action. People who write regularly experience fewer impulsive decisions. Writing creates a pause between thought and action. That pause prevents regret. Written plans outperform mental plans because they can be reviewed. Review improves learning. Writing also strengthens self-trust. You see patterns. You notice progress. Evidence builds belief. The page becomes a mirror. It reflects thinking honestly. Honest reflection leads to growth. Written focus improves sleep. The mind rests when worries are released. Writing before rest clears the mental space. Writing also helps process disappointment. Instead of carrying emotion, you place it down. Placed emotion loses control. Many people believe they need motivation to write. Writing creates motivation by clarifying purpose. The discipline of writing also strengthens intention. Intention becomes specific. Specific intention guides behavior. Written focus supports long-term thinking. Long-term thinking prevents short-term mistakes. Writing also helps you track decisions. Tracking improves accountability. The mind respects order. Order creates calm. Calm improves judgment. When thoughts are ordered, effort becomes efficient. Efficiency reduces exhaustion. Writing also helps identify false assumptions. Seeing them written exposes weakness. Written focus encourages responsibility. You own your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. The page does not argue. It allows exploration. Exploration builds understanding. Writing also improves communication. Clear internal language leads to clear external expression. When you write, you slow emotional escalation. Slower escalation prevents damage. Written focus also sharpens goals. Goals written become actionable. Writing strengthens awareness of patterns. Patterns guide improvement. When thoughts are ordered, distractions lose power. Focus strengthens. Written focus is not therapy. It is maintenance. Mental maintenance prevents breakdown. Writing builds resilience. You process challenges instead of suppressing them. The habit of writing develops patience. Patience improves consistency. Written clarity improves leadership. Leaders with clear thinking make steady decisions. Writing also reduces self-criticism. Seeing thoughts objectively softens judgment. Written focus helps you separate what you can control from what you cannot. That separation reduces stress. Writing encourages honesty without performance. Authenticity strengthens self-respect. When the mind is clear, energy returns. Energy fuels action. Written focus allows intention to lead instead of impulse. The power of intention and clarity depends on order. Order comes from expression. Writing provides that expression. You do not need talent to write. You need willingness. Writing transforms mental chaos into usable insight. Each written page reduces internal pressure. Writing becomes a place of stability. Clarity grows through repetition. Writing reinforces clarity. This practice strengthens confidence quietly. Order brings calm. Calm brings focus. Order to thoughts through written focus, and the mind regains control. Control supports direction. Direction supports growth. Growth becomes sustainable. This is how clarity becomes a daily experience, rather than a rare moment. Number 7, act intentionally instead of living on impulse. Most people do not realize how much of their life is lived on impulse. They think they are making choices, but in reality they are responding to moods, responding to pressure, responding to comfort. Impulse feels natural because it is fast. Intention feels harder because it requires awareness. Yet the difference between a directed life and a drifting life is found right there. Impulse is emotional speed without reflection. It is not evil. It is human. The brain is wired to react quickly, to protect comfort and avoid pain. That wiring helped survival. It does not help long-term fulfillment. A life guided by impulse feels busy, but directionless. Days fill up, but progress stays unclear. Acting intentionally means deciding before emotion decides for you. It means pausing long enough to ask what this action leads to. That pause may feel small, but its impact is massive. A few seconds of awareness can prevent years of regret. Impulse promises relief. Intention promises results. Relief feels good now. Results feel good later. Most people choose relief because later feels far away. Intention requires trust in the future. That trust grows with practice. Impulsive action often comes from emotional states like stress, boredom, frustration, or excitement. These states narrow thinking. Narrow thinking reduces options. Reduced options limit outcomes. Intention expands thinking. Expanded thinking improves choices. When you live on impulse, you give your environment control. Whatever is loudest wins your attention. Whatever feels strongest wins your behavior. Acting intentionally returns control to you. You decide what deserves your energy. Impulse does not ask permission. It demands action. Intention asks questions. Questions slow behavior. Slowness allows clarity. People often justify impulsive behavior by calling it spontaneity. True spontaneity is chosen. Impulse is automatic. There is a difference. Chosen action feels aligned. Automatic reaction often feels regrettable afterward. Impulsive living creates emotional highs and lows. You chase stimulation. When it fades, you feel empty. Intention creates steadiness. Steadiness supports consistency. Acting intentionally also protects self-respect. Each intentional choice confirms that you are capable of directing yourself. That belief strengthens confidence. Impulse often ignores consequences. Intention considers them. Consideration prevents unnecessary damage. Many people regret words spoken impulsively more than actions taken intentionally. Words cannot be taken back. Pausing protects relationships. Impulse feeds habits you did not choose. Scrolling, snacking, complaining, avoiding. These habits grow quietly. Intention interrupts them. Intentional action does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Awareness creates options. Options create peace. Living intentionally reduces stress. Stress often comes from feeling out of control. Control returns when actions are deliberate. Impulse seeks comfort. Intention seeks growth. Growth requires discomfort. That discomfort is temporary. Growth lasts. When you act intentionally, you align with values. Impulse ignores values. Alignment brings peace. Impulse makes decisions for the moment. Intention builds for the future. The future is shaped by repeated present moments. Many people feel tired because impulse drains energy. Intention directs energy. Directed energy multiplies impact. Impulse also fuels comparison. You react to what others are doing. Intention focuses on your path. Intentional living strengthens discipline. Discipline is not force. It is clarity repeated. Impulse thrives in distraction. Reduce distraction and impulse weakens. Acting intentionally improves health. You eat with awareness. You rest with purpose. You move with care. Intentional action improves finances. You spend with thought. You save with reason. You invest with patience. Impulse often leads to guilt. Intention reduces guilt because choices are conscious. Living intentionally builds trust with yourself. Trust supports courage. Impulse is loud. Intention is quiet. Quiet direction is powerful. When you act intentionally, you choose response over reaction. Response involves thought. Reaction skips it. Impulse seeks immediate reward. Intention values delayed reward. Delayed reward builds strength. Intentional action requires clarity. Clarity comes from knowing what matters. What matters guides behavior. People often feel stuck because impulse keeps repeating the same patterns. Intention breaks patterns. Acting intentionally does not slow life. It improves its quality. Impulse creates chaos. Intention creates order. Intentional living allows learning from mistakes. Impulsive living repeats them. When you pause before acting, you give wisdom a chance to speak. Impulse is emotional momentum. Intention is conscious direction. Acting intentionally also improves leadership. Leaders who react impulsively lose trust. Leaders who act intentionally build stability. Intentional action builds resilience. You withstand pressure because you are not easily pulled off course. Impulse follows emotion. Intention uses emotion as information, not instruction. Living intentionally requires practice. Each small pause strengthens the habit. Intentional living is not rigid. It is flexible but guided. Impulse scatters effort. Intention concentrates it. When effort is concentrated, results appear. Intentional action also improves focus. Focus improves efficiency. Efficiency reduces burnout. Impulse leads to exhaustion. Intention supports sustainability. Acting intentionally is a form of respect for time. Time spent intentionally feels meaningful. Meaning supports motivation. Impulse often hides fear. Intention faces it. Facing fear builds courage. Courage builds self-belief. Self-belief changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. Outcomes shape life. The power of intention and clarity shows itself fully here. Intention replaces impulse. Clarity guides choice. You cannot eliminate impulse. You can outgrow its control. Each intentional action weakens impulsive patterns. Over time, intention becomes natural. Living intentionally transforms how days feel. Days become purposeful. Purpose sustains effort. Effort produces progress. Progress builds fulfillment. Act intentionally instead of living on impulse. And life begins to feel directed rather than accidental. That shift changes everything. Number 8, clarify priorities when life feels overwhelming. Overwhelm is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal. It is the mind saying too much is demanding attention at the same time. Life rarely becomes overwhelming because everything is important. It becomes overwhelming because nothing is clearly placed. When priorities are unclear, the mind tries to hold everything equally, and that is impossible. Most people do not collapse under pressure. They collapse under confusion. Confusion about what deserves focus. Confusion about what can wait. Confusion about what truly matters right now. When everything feels urgent, the nervous system stays tense. Tension drains energy. Energy loss leads to frustration. Clarifying priorities is not about doing more. It is about deciding better. When life feels heavy, the solution is not speed, it is order. Order restores calm. Calm restores thinking. The human mind needs hierarchy. It needs to know what comes first. Without hierarchy, decisions pile up. Each decision demands attention. Attention becomes exhausted. Exhaustion makes even small tasks feel hard. When priorities are unclear, the mind jumps from one concern to another. Without resolution, that jumping creates mental noise. Noise feels like overwhelm. Silence returns when order is restored. Many people respond to overwhelm by trying to catch up. Catching up is a trap. It assumes everything must be handled now. That assumption creates pressure. Pressure reduces clarity. Clarifying priorities requires pause. Pause feels uncomfortable when things feel urgent. Yet without pause, urgency controls behavior. Pausing allows perspective. Perspective reduces urgency. Overwhelm often grows because people confuse activity with importance. Being busy feels responsible. Responsibility is about direction, not motion. Motion without direction creates fatigue. When you clarify priorities, you give yourself permission to ignore what does not matter right now. Ignoring is not avoidance, it is strategy. The mind relaxes when it knows what can wait. Waiting is easier when it is intentional. Intentional waiting is different from neglect. Life brings many demands. Not all demands deserve equal response. Clarifying priorities means choosing response based on values, not pressure. When priorities are clear, decision-making improves. You stop debating every choice. You measure choices against what matters most. That measurement saves time. Overwhelm also comes from emotional attachment to outcome. Clarifying priorities helps separate effort from outcome. You focus on what you can control. Many people feel overwhelmed because they carry responsibilities that are not theirs. Boundaries dissolve when priorities are unclear. Clarifying priorities strengthens boundaries. Clarity reduces guilt. Guilt often comes from feeling behind everywhere. When priorities are clear, you accept that progress happens in sequence, not all at once. The mind performs better when it handles one major focus at a time. Multitasking increases stress and lowers quality. Focus increases confidence. Clarifying priorities does not remove problems. It organizes them. Organized problems feel manageable. When life feels overwhelming, emotions intensify. Clarifying priorities calms emotions because it restores a sense of control. Control is not about domination. It is about understanding. Understanding brings steadiness. Overwhelm often hides fear of disappointing others. Clarifying priorities helps you decide whose expectations matter. Not all expectations deserve obedience. The brain cannot distinguish between real urgency and perceived urgency. when everything feels important. Clarifying priorities teaches the brain what truly requires action. When priorities are clear, energy is used efficiently. Efficient energy supports endurance. Overwhelm shortens patience. Clarifying priorities restores patience by reducing mental load. When you know what matters most today, you stop carrying tomorrow into today. That separation protects mental health. Clarifying priorities also improves communication. You explain limits calmly. Calm explanations reduce conflict. Many people wait until a breaking point to simplify. Simplification can happen earlier through conscious choice. The feeling of drowning often comes from trying to swim in every direction. Direction saves energy. Clarifying priorities requires honesty. Honesty about capacity. Capacity is limited. Accepting limits prevents burnout. When priorities are clear, rest becomes easier. Rest without guilt restores strength. Overwhelm creates urgency. Addiction. Everything feels critical. Clarifying priorities breaks that addiction. Clarity allows you to finish tasks. Finishing builds momentum. Momentum restores motivation. Unfinished tasks linger mentally. Clarifying priorities helps you choose what to finish first. When priorities are unclear, you spend energy worrying. When they are clear, energy moves into action. Clarifying priorities also reduces comparison. You stop measuring yourself against others. Because your path is defined, the mind needs anchors. Priorities act as anchors. Anchors prevent drifting. Overwhelm often masks lack of direction. Direction emerges when priorities are set. Clarifying priorities is an act of leadership over your own life. Leaders decide sequence. Sequence determines progress. Progress reduces anxiety. When life feels overwhelming, slow down long enough to ask what truly trues now. That question cuts through noise. Not everything important is urgent. Not everything urgent is important. Clarity allows you to tell the difference. Clarifying priorities also supports long-term thinking. Long-term thinking prevents short-term panic. When priorities are clear, emotions settle. Settled emotions improve judgment. Overwhelm narrows vision. Clarifying priorities widens it. Many people feel overwhelmed because they carry emotional weight alone. Clarifying priorities often reveals where support is needed. Support becomes easier to ask for when direction is clear. Clarity also strengthens resilience. When pressure hits you, know what must remain steady. Overwhelm erodes confidence. Clarifying priorities restores belief in your ability to handle life. The mind feels safe when it knows what matters. Safety reduces stress response. Clarifying priorities does not mean ignoring responsibility. It means organizing it. Organization brings relief. Relief allows focus. Focus produces results. Results reinforce clarity. Clarity builds confidence. Confidence reduces overwhelm. This cycle strengthens with practice. Each time life feels heavy, return to order. Decide what comes first. Let the rest wait. Waiting intentionally prevents collapse. Life is not asking you to do everything at once. It is asking you to choose wisely. Clarify priorities when life feels overwhelming and pressure begins to loosen. Breathing deepens, thinking sharpens, action becomes possible. Clarity does not remove challenge. It makes challenge navigable. With clear priorities, the mind steadies. With a steady mind, life becomes manageable again. That is how order restores strength. Number 9, strengthen self-trust by keeping small promises. Self-trust is not something you talk yourself into. It is something you build through evidence. People often say they want more confidence, but confidence does not come from bold thoughts or strong words. It comes from a quiet agreement between what you say you will do and what you actually do. When that agreement is broken repeatedly, the mind notices. When it is honored consistently, the mind relaxes. Most people lose trust in themselves in small ways, not dramatic ones. They promise to wake up earlier and do not. They promise to follow through and delay. They promise to take care of something and ignore it. None of these moments seem important alone. Together they shape self-belief. The mind keeps score even when you pretend not. Keeping small promises is how trust is repaired and strengthened. Small promises matter because they are manageable. Manageable commitments are kept more often. Each kept promise becomes proof. Proof builds belief. Belief builds confidence. When you break promises to yourself, there is no argument. There is only a quiet loss of credibility. You may not notice it immediately, but it shows up later as hesitation. You hesitate to start because part of you doubts you will finish. That doubt is not imagination. It is memory. Self-trust works the same way. Trust works with others. Consistency matters more than intensity. Grand promises followed by inaction weaken trust faster than modest promises kept daily. Many people sabotage self-trust by promising too much. They aim high without considering capacity. Capacity matters. When promises exceed capacity, failure follows. Failure repeated creates avoidance. Keeping small promises respects reality. Reality includes energy levels, time limits, and emotional state. Working within reality builds reliability. When you keep a promise to yourself, the brain releases a sense of reward. That reward reinforces behavior. Reinforced behavior repeats. This is how habits form naturally. Self-trust also affects decision-making. When you trust yourself, you act faster with less anxiety. When trust is low, every decision feels heavy. You question your judgment constantly. Small promises also bring structure to days. Structure creates predictability. Predictability calms the nervous system. Calm improves focus. People often underestimate the emotional weight of unfinished intentions. Unfinished intentions linger. They create mental clutter. Keeping promises clears space. Self-trust is not arrogance. It is assurance. Assurance comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, even when motivation is low. Keeping promises also builds discipline, gently. Discipline does not have to be harsh. It can be built through kindness and consistency. When you keep a promise to yourself, you experience pride. Pride is not ego. It is respect earned through action. Broken promises create inner conflict. One part of you wants growth. Another part expects disappointment. That conflict drains energy. Keeping promises resolves it. Small promises create momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence encourages larger commitments. Many people wait to trust themselves before acting. Action creates trust, not the other way around. Keeping promises also improves emotional stability. You feel grounded because your behavior matches your intention. Self-trust strengthens resilience. When challenges appear, you believe you can respond effectively, because past actions support that belief. Keeping promises improves self-talk. The inner voice becomes supportive instead of critical. Supportive self-talk improves performance. Small promises also build patience. You learn to value progress over perfection. Patience sustains effort. Self-trust affects relationships. When you trust yourself, you communicate clearly. Clear communication builds external trust. Breaking promises to yourself often leads to overcompensating with others. You try to gain approval externally. Strengthening self-trust reduces that need. Keeping promises also clarifies identity. You see yourself as someone who follows through. Identity shapes behavior. When identity shifts, behavior becomes easier. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. Small promises also improve health. You move when you said you would. You rest when you planned to. These actions accumulate. Self-trust reduces anxiety. Anxiety often comes from uncertainty about your own response. Trust removes that uncertainty. Keeping promises also strengthens intention. Intention becomes credible. Credible intention leads action. Many people avoid making promises to themselves because they fear failure. Fear decreases when promises are realistic. Realistic promises honor capacity. Honored capacity builds reliability. Self-trust grows quietly. There is no announcement. There is steady progress. Keeping small promises also teaches responsibility. Responsibility empowers. It does not burden. Responsibility shifts focus from excuses to solutions. Self-trust makes learning easier. You try new things because you believe you can handle outcomes. Keeping promises builds consistency. Consistency outperforms intensity. Consistency creates stability. Stability supports growth. Self-trust also affects ambition. Ambition becomes grounded instead of frantic. Keeping promises aligns behavior with values. Alignment strengthens self-trust. Self-respect improves boundaries. You say no when needed. No protects focus. Self-trust also reduces comparison. You focus on your progress instead of others. Keeping promises improves time management. You use time intentionally. Self-trust strengthens leadership. Leaders who trust themselves inspire trust in others. Small promises also improve recovery. When setbacks happen, you yearn to commitment instead of quitting. Self-trust supports clarity. Clarity improves decision-making. Keeping promises builds inner authority. Authority guides behavior under pressure. Self-trust also improves creativity. You explore ideas because you trust execution. Keeping promises reduces procrastination. Procrastination thrives on doubt. Trust removes doubt. Self-trust strengthens commitment. Commitment sustains effort. Small promises also improve self-compassion. You treat yourself fairly. Self-trust grows when effort feels honest. Keeping promises turns intention into evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief drives action. Action shapes outcomes. Outcomes reinforce trust. This cycle strengthens over time. Self-trust is not fixed. It is built daily. Each kept promise adds weight to your word. Your word matters to your mind. When your word matters, discipline becomes natural. Keeping small promises also builds courage. Courage grows when you see yourself handle responsibility. Self-trust improves resilience under stress. Stress loses power when confidence is steady. Steady confidence supports clarity. Clarity supports intention. Intention guides action. Action builds life. Strengthens self-trust by keeping small promises, and the inner voice changes tone. Doubt softens. Confidence steadies. Progress becomes consistent. You do not need dramatic change. You need daily reliability. Reliability builds trust. Trust builds strength. Strength becomes direction. Direction shapes fulfillment. This is how self-trust is added quietly and powerfully over time. Number 10. Live deliberately rather than reacting unconsciously. Most lives are not shaped by conscious choice. They are shaped by reaction. Reaction to moods. Reaction to pressure. Reaction to habits formed years ago and never questioned. When people feel stuck, it is rarely because they lack ability. It is because they are living unconsciously. They wake up and respond instead of decide. They move through the day pulled by whatever demands attention first. That way of living feels normal because it is common. It is also exhausting. Living deliberately is the opposite of drifting. It means choosing how you respond instead of allowing the world to choose for you. It means awareness before action. Awareness changes everything. Without it, behavior repeats itself automatically. With it, behavior becomes intentional. Unconscious reaction feels fast. Something happens and you answer immediately. You speak without thinking. You agree without reflection. You distract yourself without noticing. Speed hides responsibility. Slowness reveals it. Most people do not notice how often they react emotionally. A tone of voice triggers defense. A delay triggers frustration. A challenge triggers avoidance. These reactions feel justified in the moment. Over time, they shape identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is impatient, guarded, overwhelmed, or inconsistent. That identity was built unconsciously. Living deliberately interrupts that cycle. It creates space between what happens and what you do next. In that space, you regain control. Control does not mean force. It means choice. Unconscious living is driven by habit. Habit is efficient, but blind. It repeats without evaluating outcome. Deliberate living reviews outcome. It asks whether the result matches intention. Many people believe they are making decisions when they are simply following patterns. Patterns formed by past experiences, past disappointments, past reward. Patterns protect familiarity. They do not protect growth. When you live deliberately, you begin to question defaults. Why do I respond this way? Why do I avoid this? Why do I keep piecing comfort over progress? These questions bring awareness. Awareness brings change. Reaction often feels emotional. Deliberate action feels calm. Calm does not mean passive. It means grounded. Grounded choices last longer than emotional ones. Unconscious reaction is usually focused on the short term. Avoid discomfort. Seek relief. Protect image. Deliberate living considers impact. Impact on time. Impact on energy. Impact on future self. People who live reactively often feel like life happens to them. People who live deliberately feel like participants. That shift changes confidence. Deliberate living requires clarity. Clarity about values. Clarity about direction. Without clarity, reactions dominate. Unconscious reaction thrives in distraction. Constant input keeps awareness low. Deliberate living requires moments of quiet attention. When awareness increases, impulse weakens. Impulse feeds on speed. Awareness slows behavior. Living deliberately also changes how you handle mistakes. Instead of reacting with shame or avoidance, you respond with learning. Learning improves judgment. Unconscious reaction often repeats the same errors. Deliberate response adjusts strategy. When you live deliberately, emotions do not disappear. They become information instead of commands. Information can be evaluated. Commands must be obeyed. Many conflicts escalate because people react unconsciously. Deliberate response diffuses tension. It chooses words carefully. Care protects relationships. Living deliberately improves consistency. You act in alignment with intention rather than mood. Mood changes, intention guides. Unconscious living eats regret. Regret comes from realizing too late that you did not act in alignment with yourself. Deliberate living reduces regret because choices are conscious. Deliberate action also builds dignity. You respect yourself because you are not being pulled by every trigger. Triggers lose power when they are noticed. Noticing is the beginning of freedom. Living deliberately requires patience. Patience allows awareness to form before action. Without patience, reaction takes over. Many people rush because they fear missing out. Deliberate living chooses fulfillment over noise. Fulfillment lasts. Noise fades. Unconscious lees is influenced heavily by environment. Deliberate living designs environment. You choose what surrounds you. Designing environment reduces temptation. Reduced temptation improves focus. Living deliberately also strengthens boundaries. Boundaries require awareness of limit. Unconscious living ignores limits until burnout appears. Deliberate living protects energy. Energy is precious. Unconscious reaction wastes it. People often feel tired not because they work hard, but because they react constantly. Reaction consumes mental resource. Deliberate living simplifies decision-making. You measure choices against intention. That measurement saves time. Unconscious living creates scattered effort. Deliberate living concentrates effort. Concentrated effort produces results. Results reinforce deliberate behavior. Living deliberately also improves self-trust. You trust yourself because you know your actions are considered. Unconscious erodes trust. You surprise yourself with behavior you later regret. Deliberate living improves emotional regulation. You pause before expressing emotion. That pause prevents damage. Living deliberately does not mean controlling everything. It means choosing response where choice exists. Many people believe reaction is unavoidable. It is not. Awareness creates alternatives. Living deliberately also you reflect on outcomes instead of repeating behavior blindly. Reflection strengthens wisdom. Wisdom guides future action. Unconscious living often leads to blame. You blame circumstances. Deliberate living takes responsibility. Responsibility empowers. Living deliberately also improves resilience. When pressure increases, you remain steady because you are not easily shaken. Unconscious reaction amplifies stress. Deliberate response reduces it. Deliberate living creates alignment. Alignment brings peace. Peace supports focus. Focus supports progress. Progress builds confidence. Confidence reinforces deliberate behavior. Living deliberately also changes how you experience time. Time feels fuller. Moments feel intentional. Unconscious living makes time disappear without memory. Deliberate living creates memory because awareness is present. Memory builds meaning. Meaning sustains effort. Living deliberately also improves health. You notice signals before breakdown. Awareness prevents damage. Unconscious reaction ignores signals until pain forces attention. Deliberate living strengthens discipline. Discipline becomes choice, not punishment. Choice empowers. Unconscious living weakens discipline because impulse dominates. Living deliberately also improves creativity. You respond thoughtfully instead of rushing expression. Thoughtful expression has impact. Deliberate living improves leadership. People trust those who respond intentionally. Trust builds influence. Influence supports purpose. Unconscious reaction spreads chaos. Deliberate response creates stability. Stability supports growth. Living deliberately does not require perfection. It requires presence. Presence means being where you are while choosing how you act. Unconscious living is absence. You are physically present but mentally absent. Deliberate living brings you back. Each moment offers a choice. React or respond. Drift or direct. The power of intention and clarity reaches completion here. Intention defines direction. Clarity supports awareness. Awareness enables deliberate action. When you live deliberately, you stop feeling like life is rushing past you. You feel engaged. Engagement creates fulfillment. Fulfillment sustains effort. Effort builds results. Results reinforce intention. This cycle strengthens over time. Living deliberately rather than reacting unconsciously transforms ordinary days into meaningful progress. You do not need to control the world. You need to control your response. That control shapes your character. Character shapes destiny. Destiny is not a single moment. It is daily behavior repeated. Choose awareness. Choose attention. Choose deliberate action. Life becomes directed rather than accidental. That shift is where real power lives.